The sound of the slap echoes through the hospital corridor like a gunshot. Heads turn, conversations stop. Everyone in the waiting room of Gangnam Medical Center freezes as the sharp crack of flesh hitting flesh reverberates off the sterile white walls. Kioma and Lovu's face snaps to the side from the force of the blow. Her cheek burns. Her vision blurs for a moment, but she doesn't cry out. She doesn't stumble. She simply stands there, a 28-year-old South African nurse in blue scrubs, her hand slowly rising to touch the spot where Mrs. Choi Yeon-hee's palm just connected with her face. Mrs. Choi, a woman dripping in designer labels and entitlement, points a manicured finger at Kioma's face. "That's what you deserve! Someone needs to teach you your place!" The security guard rushes over, his radio crackling. "Ma'am! Hey, you need to leave immediately!" Mrs. Choi whips around, her expensive handbag swinging. "Do you know who I am? I'm on the hospital board. I'll have all of you fired, especially her." She jabs her finger toward Kioma again. "I'll make sure she's deported back to whatever country she crawled out of." As security escorts the screaming woman toward the exit, Kioma remains motionless. The red mark on her dark skin begins to swell. Her colleague, Nurse Ji-won, rushes to her side. "Kioma, oh my God, are you okay? We need to call the police. We need to report this." Kioma takes a slow, steady breath. Her voice comes out calm, controlled, professional. "I'm fine. Let's just get back to work." But her hands are shaking. And what, Mrs. Choi doesn't know, what no one in this hospital knows, is that the woman she just humiliated belongs to the most dangerous man in Seoul. And in approximately 3 hours, when Kioma goes home and her fiancé sees the bruise on her face, Mrs. Choi's entire world will begin to burn. If you want to see how a powerful woman loses everything because of one slap, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me what you would do in this situation. And buckle up, because this story is about to get intense. The morning starts like any other Tuesday in Seoul. The city is already awake, millions of people rushing through subway stations, clutching coffee cups, checking their phones. The autumn air carries a chill, and the streets of Gangnam gleam with the kind of wealth that makes the rest of the world look dull by comparison. The Kioma arrives at Gangnam Medical Center at 5:45 in the morning, 15 minutes before her shift begins. She always arrives early. It's a habit from her childhood in Johannesburg, something her mother drilled into her. If you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. She changes into her scrubs in the staff locker room, pulls her braided hair into a neat bun, and clips her ID badge to her chest. The photo on the badge shows a younger version of herself from 3 years ago, fresh-faced and hopeful, still adjusting to life in a country where she looked different from everyone else. Now, she speaks Korean fluently. She understands the culture. She knows which patients want detailed explanations and which ones prefer brief reassurances. She knows which doctors have short tempers and which ones appreciate a nurse who speaks up. She has built a life here, carved out a space for herself in a society that doesn't always welcome outsiders. "Morning, Kioma," Nurse Ji-won greets her as they walk to the nurses' station together. Ji-won is 26, energetic, and one of the few colleagues who became a real friend rather than just a co-worker. "Did you have a good night?" Kioma smiles, a small, secret smile. "Yes. Quiet evening at home." Home. The word feels strange sometimes. Home is a penthouse apartment in Gangnam that overlooks the entire city. Home is a man who kisses her forehead every morning and asks about her dreams. Home is a life she never imagined when she first came to Korea 5 years ago with nothing but a work visa and a nursing certificate. And the morning passes in the usual rhythm of vital checks, medication rounds, and doctor consultations. Kioma moves through her tasks with practiced efficiency. She holds an elderly woman's hand while the doctor delivers bad news about her test results. She calms a child who's afraid of needles. She updates charts, checks IV drips, and responds to call lights. At 1:15 in the afternoon, everything changes. Mrs. Choi Yeon-hee storms into the emergency department like a hurricane in Chanel. Her heels click aggressively against the linoleum floor. Her face is twisted in an expression of barely contained rage, though whether she's angry about something specific or just generally displeased with the world is unclear. She marches straight to the nurse's station where Kioma is updating a patient file on the computer. "I need to see a doctor right now. I have a terrible headache." Kioma looks up, her expression neutral and professional. "Good afternoon, ma'am. I'll need to get some information from you first. What's your name?" "What's my name?" Mrs. Choi's voice rises. "Do you not know who I am? I'm Choi Yeon-hee. I'm on the hospital board." Kioma maintains her calm demeanor. "Yes, ma'am. I still need to register you in the system. Can you describe your symptoms?" Mrs. Choi leans over the counter, invading Kioma's space. "I told you, I have a headache, a terrible headache. Get me a doctor now." "I understand you're in discomfort, Mrs. Choi. However, there are patients ahead of you who arrived first. If this is a medical emergency, severe pain, vision changes, neurological symptoms, I can have you assessed immediately. Otherwise, you'll need to wait your turn." The words are perfectly professional, perfectly reasonable, but Mrs. Choi's face flushes red. "Wait? You're telling me to wait? Do you have any idea how much money I've donated to this hospital? How dare you, a foreign nurse, speak to me this way?" Other patients in the waiting area begin to stare. The other nurse on duty, a young man named Jae-sung, glances nervously at Kioma, silently asking if she needs help. Kioma gives him a subtle headshake. She has dealt with difficult patients before. "Mrs. Choi, I need you to lower your voice. You're disturbing other patients. I'm happy to help you, but don't tell me what to do." Mrs. Choi's shout echoes through the department. "You come to our country, take our jobs, and then have the audacity to disrespect me? I want to speak to your supervisor. Better yet, I want you fired." Kioma feels her pulse quicken, but her face remains calm. Years of dealing with difficult patients, with racism both subtle and overt, have taught her to maintain her composure. Getting emotional only makes things worse. "Ma'am, if you'd like to file a complaint, I can provide you with the appropriate forms. Right now, if you'd like medical attention, please have a seat and—" The automatic doors burst open. Paramedics rush in, wheeling a gurney. 72-year-old male, chest pain, possible MI, BP dropping. Kioma's training kicks in instantly. She turns from Mrs. Choi without another word and moves toward the incoming patient. "Bay 3 is open. Dr. Kang is on duty. Jae-sung, get the crash cart ready." Mrs. Choi grabs Kioma's arm. Her fingers dig in hard enough to bruise. "Hey, don't you dare walk away from me!" Kioma yanks her arm free. Her voice drops low, firm, with an edge of steel that makes several nearby people take a step back. "Ma'am, a man is having a heart attack. Move, now!" For a moment, Mrs. Choi looks like she might explode. But the urgency of the situation, the paramedics shouting medical information, the beeping of monitors, forces her to step aside. Kioma rushes to the patient. The next 15 minutes are a blur of controlled chaos. Kioma helps transfer the patient, Mr. Kim, onto the hospital bed. She connects him to the heart monitor, starts an IV, rattles off his vitals to Dr. Kang, and assists with the emergency procedures. Mr. Kim's wife arrives, crying, terrified. Kioma holds her hand, explains what's happening in simple terms, gets her a chair and a cup of water. "Doctor." Kang stabilizes the patient and orders his transfer to the cardiac unit. As the team wheels Mr. Kim away, his wife grabs Kioma's hand. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Kioma squeezes back gently. "He's in good hands now. The cardiac team will take excellent care of him." She returns to the nurse's station, expecting Mrs. Choi to be long gone. She's wrong. Mrs. Choi is sitting in the waiting area, arms crossed, eyes burning with fury. The moment she sees Kioma, she stands up and marches over. "You made me wait for 20 minutes." Kioma washes her hands at the sink, not looking at the woman. I was dealing with a life-threatening emergency, Mrs. Choi. Now, if you'd like to be seen for your headache, I can... Do you think you're better than me? Mrs. Choi's voice is shaking now, not with fear, but with pure rage. So, coming to our country, taking our jobs, acting like you're some kind of hero? Kioma dries her hands, turns around, and looks Mrs. Choi directly in the eyes. I'm a registered nurse doing my job. If you have a complaint about my conduct, you can speak to my supervisor. If you want medical attention, I can register you now. If you're just here to insult me, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. The waiting room goes silent again. Everyone is watching. Jae-sung has his phone out, clearly ready to call security. An elderly woman in the corner whispers to her daughter. A man with his arm in a sling leans forward, not wanting to miss what happens next. Mrs. Choi takes a step closer. She's smaller than Kioma by several inches, but her presence is amplified by her rage and her sense of entitlement. You need to learn your place. Someone needs to teach you that there are consequences for disrespecting your betters. Kioma feels exhaustion washing over her. It's been a long shift. She just helped save a man's life. And now she's being berated by a woman who thinks her wealth makes her superior to everyone else. Mrs. Choi, I'm going to call security now. The slap comes out of nowhere. Mrs. Choi's hand connects with Kioma's left cheek with enough force to make her head turn. The sharp crack echoes through the emergency department. For a moment, everything stops. Time seems to freeze. Kioma's ear rings. Her cheek burns. She can feel the exact imprint of each of Mrs. Choi's fingers. That's what you deserve! Mrs. Choi is screaming now, her face red, spittle flying from her mouth. Someone needs to teach you your place. You foreigners think you can come here and... The security guard, a man named Mr. Park who's worked at the hospital for 15 years, grabs Mrs. Choi's arm. Ma'am, you need to leave right now or I'm calling the police. Mrs. Choi struggles against his grip. Let go of me. Do you know who I am? I'm on the hospital board. I'll have you all fired, especially her. She points at Kioma with her free hand. I'll make sure she's deported. I'll make sure she never works in this country again. Mr. Park's partner arrives, and together they escort Mrs. Choi toward the exit. Her voice grows more shrill as they drag her away. This isn't over. I know people, important people. You're finished. Do you hear me? Finished. The automatic doors close behind her. Her muffled shouts can still be heard from outside. Then, slowly, and the normal sounds of the hospital return. Monitors beeping, phones ringing, someone coughing, a baby crying in the distance. Ji-won rushes to Kioma's side. Oh my God, Kioma, are you okay? Your face. We need to call the police right now. That was assault. Kioma touches her cheek. It's already swelling. She can feel the heat radiating from the impact site. I'm fine. You're not fine. She hit you, in front of everyone. Ji-won is nearly in tears. We have witnesses, security cameras. We can press charges. Dr. Kang appears, his face set in a grim expression. Kioma, come to my office. We need to file an incident report. Kioma nods numbly. She follows him through the corridors, aware of the stares from other staff members. News travels fast in a hospital. By now, everyone probably knows. And the foreign nurse who got slapped by a board member. The South African woman who didn't know her place. In Dr. Kang's office, he pulls out the necessary forms. He's a man in his 50s, stern but fair, who's always treated Kioma with respect. Tell me exactly what happened. Kioma recounts the incident in a flat, emotionless voice. The headache complaint, the waiting patients, the emergency, the escalation, the slap. Dr. Kang writes everything down. I want to press charges, he says when she's finished. On behalf of the hospital. That behavior is unacceptable. Kioma shakes her head slowly. Dr. Kang, you heard her. She's on the hospital board. She has connections. If we make this into a big issue, then what? We let her get away with assaulting a staff member? I just want to finish my shift and go home. Kioma's voice is quiet. Please, I know how these things work. I'm a foreign worker. She's a wealthy Korean woman with powerful friends. Even if we press charges, nothing will happen to her. But it will make my life here very difficult. Dr. Kang looks like he wants to argue, but he sees the exhaustion in her eyes. At least let me document this and file it with HR. And if she ever comes back here, she won't, Kioma says, though she doesn't know why she's so certain. Just a feeling, an instinct. She finishes the last 3 hours of her shift in a daze. She changes IV bags, checks on patients, administers medications. Her cheek throbs. The swelling gets worse. Ji-won brings her an ice pack, and then she holds it against her face while she updates charts. At 9:30 p.m., she finally clocks out. She changes back into her street clothes in the locker room, careful not to look at her reflection in the mirror. She doesn't want to see the bruise. Not yet. Outside, the Seoul night is cool and bustling. Neon signs glow in Korean and English. Street vendors sell tteokbokki and hot talk. Young couples walk hand in hand. Businessmen stumble out of soju bars. The city pulses with life, indifferent to her pain. Her phone buzzes. A text message. Min-jun. How was your day? I'm cooking tonight. Your favorite. She stares at the message for a long moment. Her fingers hover over the keyboard. She could tell him. She could tell him everything. But she knows what will happen if she does. She knows who he is, what he's capable of. And she types back, "Long day. On my way home now." The subway ride takes 40 minutes. She sits in the corner of the car, hood pulled up, ice pack still pressed to her face. A few people glance at her curiously, but most are absorbed in their phones. Seoul is a city where everyone minds their own business. She gets off at Gangnam station and walks 3 blocks to the luxury apartment building where Min-jun lives. Where they live together, though the lease is only in his name. Where she's spent almost every night for the past year, though she still maintains her own small apartment in Mapo as a backup, just in case. The doorman greets her with a respectful nod. "Good evening, Miss Endlovu." She returns the greeting and takes the elevator to the 42nd floor. There are only 2 apartments on this level. Min-jun owns both, or one they live in. The other is used for business. She never asks about the details. She unlocks the door with her fingerprint and steps inside. The apartment is stunning, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture and art that costs more than most people make in a year. The view of Seoul at night is spectacular, a sea of lights stretching to the horizon. Min-jun appears from the kitchen. He's wearing dark slacks and a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His hair is slightly messy, like he's been running his hands through it. At 32, he's devastatingly handsome in a way that still makes her heart skip sometimes. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that see everything, a smile that can be warm or dangerous depending on the context. "Jagi, you're finally home." His smile is warm now, genuine. Then he crosses the space between them in a few long strides. "I made that curry you like, the one with the butternut squash and—" He stops. His eyes narrow. His entire demeanor shifts from loving boyfriend to something else, something cold and lethal. "What happened to your face?" Kioma's hand instinctively goes to her cheek. She'd taken the ice pack off in the elevator. The bruise is fully visible now, purple and swollen, the clear imprint of fingers. "It's nothing. Just a difficult patient." Min-jun gently takes her face in his hands, tilting it toward the light. His jaw clenches. When he speaks, his voice is dangerously quiet. "Someone hit you." It's not a question. Kioma pulls away, sets down her bag, tries to act casual. "A woman got upset because I helped another patient first. She was just being dramatic. It's handled." "Handled how?" Min-jun follows her into the living room. "Did you call the police? Press charges?" "No." "Why not?" Kioma turns to face him. She's tired. Her cheek hurts. She doesn't have the energy for this conversation. Because I'm a foreign worker in Korea, Minjun. Because she's a wealthy woman with connections. Because making a big deal out of it would only make my life harder. Because this is how the world works. Minjun is silent for a moment. Then he says, very carefully, "Give me her name." "No." "Kioma, I know what you do." She says it firmly, looking him directly in the eyes. "I know who you are. I know the kind of power you have. And I love you anyway. But I don't want this. I don't want you to hurt people because of me." He steps closer, his voice soft but intense. "When someone touches you, it becomes my problem. Not because you're weak, not because you can't handle yourself, but because you're mine, and I protect what's mine. I don't need protection. You have a bruise the size of a handprint on your face." His voice rises for the first time, then he catches himself, takes a breath, and continues more quietly. "Someone put their hands on you. Someone hurt you. You think I can just let that go?" Kioma feels tears prick her eyes, and she hates it. She never cries. She didn't cry when Mrs. Choi slapped her. She didn't cry during the incident report. But now, in the safety of this apartment, with this man who loves her so fiercely, the emotions start to break through. "I'm so tired," she whispers. "I'm tired of being the strong one. I'm tired of taking abuse from patients who think I'm beneath them because of where I'm from. I'm tired of being professional and calm when what I really want to do is scream. But if you get involved, if you do something, then I become the woman who needs her boyfriend to fight her battles. And I can't be that person." Minjun pulls her into his arms. She resists for a moment, then melts into his embrace. He's warm and solid and safe. "You are the strongest person I know," he murmurs into her hair. "Asking for help doesn't change that. Letting someone stand beside you doesn't make you weak." They stand there for a long moment, holding each other. Finally, Kioma pulls back and looks up at him. "Promise me you won't kill her." A slight smile tugs at his lips. I promise. Or hurt her physically. There are many ways to hurt someone without touching them." Kioma sighs. She knows she's not going to win this argument. "Her name is Choi Yeon-hee. She said she's on the hospital board." Minjun's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his eyes. He pulls out his phone and sends a single text message. "Find everything on Choi Yeon-hee. I want her life story by morning." Within seconds, his phone buzzes with confirmations. His network is already moving. "Come on," he says, guiding her toward the bathroom. "Let me take care of that bruise." He sits her down on the edge of the bathtub and gets the first aid kit from under the sink. He's gentle as he cleans the area, applies antibiotic ointment, checks for signs of serious injury. His hands are steady, practiced. She wonders, not for the first time, how many wounds he's tended to in his life. How many of his own? How many of others? "How did we get here?" she asks softly. He knows she's not talking about the bathroom. "You saved my life. I fell in love. It's not that complicated." "It's very complicated." "Maybe." He finishes treating her cheek and kisses her forehead. "But I wouldn't change it." That night, Kioma lies awake in bed while Minjun makes phone calls in his office. She can hear his voice through the walls, low and commanding. She knows he's not sleeping tonight. He's planning something. And despite her misgivings, despite her insistence that she doesn't need revenge, there's a small, dark part of her that's glad. That wants Mrs. Choi to face consequences. That wants justice. She drifts off sometime around 3 in the morning. When she wakes up at 6, Minjun is already gone. There's a note on his pillow. "At the office. Don't go to work today. Rest. I love you." But Kioma doesn't rest. She gets up, showers, carefully applies makeup to cover the bruise, and goes to work. Because that's who she is. She doesn't hide. She doesn't run. She shows up. At the hospital, everyone stares. Jiwon hugs her. Dr. Kang checks on her 3 times. Even the normally stern head nurse asks if she needs anything. The support is overwhelming and heartwarming and exhausting all at once. Mrs. Choi doesn't come back. Kioma doesn't expect her to. What she doesn't know is that across the city, in a sleek office building in Gangnam, Min Jun is sitting across from his second-in-command, a man named Tai Jin who's been with him for 10 years. And between them on the desk is a thick folder. "Tell me everything," Min Jun says. Tai Jin opens the folder. Choi Yeon-hee, 52 years old, married to Choi Dae-jung, CEO of Choi Enterprises. On paper, they're worth about 15 billion won. Big house in Gangnam, villa in Jeju, apartment in New York. She's on the boards of several charities and cultural organizations. Very active in high society. That's the public image. What's underneath? Tae-jin smiles. Underneath is more interesting. She has gambling debts, serious ones. 800 million won to some underground casinos. She's been embezzling from the hospital charity foundation to cover them. We found records of transfers, false receipts, the whole operation. She's stolen about 1.2 billion won over the past 3 years. Min Jun leans back in his chair. And her husband? Having an affair with his secretary, 26-year-old woman named Yumi. He's planning to divorce Mrs. Choi, but he's waiting until after a big business deal goes through. Doesn't want the scandal to affect his company's stock price. So she's sitting on a house of cards. Exactly. One strong wind and the whole thing collapses. Min Jun is quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he says, "We're not going to destroy her. We're going to let her destroy herself. We're just going to expedite the process." Tae-jin pulls out a notepad. "What's the play?" "First, the gambling debts. Contact the casinos. Tell them it's time to collect. No more extensions. Full payment within 1 week or they go public. Done. Second, the social circle. Start planting rumors. Nothing too obvious. Just whispers. Have you heard about Mrs. Choi's financial troubles? I heard her husband is leaving her. Make her friends start to distance themselves. Easy. Third, the embezzlement. Anonymous tip to the Financial Crimes Division. Provide them with all the evidence. Let the law do the rest. That'll take time. Investigations, bureaucracy. We have time. I want this done right. Not violent, not obvious. I want her to watch everything she built crumble piece by piece, and I want her to know there's nothing she can do to stop it. Tae-jin looks at his boss with something like admiration. And the husband? Give him a push. Let him know his wife's about to be investigated for embezzlement. Give him an out. He'll take it. What about the woman? Your fiancé? Min Jun's expression softens slightly. Kioma doesn't know we're doing this. And she can't know. Not yet. She'd try to stop me. She has this idea that she needs to handle everything herself, that asking for help makes her weak. So you're protecting her without telling her. I'm making sure the person who hurt her faces consequences. There's a difference. Tae-jin closes the folder. This is going to take about 2 weeks. Maybe less if things move quickly. Good. Keep me updated on every step. Over the next 7 days, Mrs. Choi's life begins to fall apart in ways that seem almost random, almost like bad luck, but are actually carefully orchestrated dominoes falling in sequence. First, the casino sends representatives to her house, large men in expensive suits who knock on her door and hand her a formal demand letter. 800 million won, due within 7 days. No exceptions. She tries to call in favors, but suddenly people aren't taking her calls. Second, the whispers start. At a charity luncheon, 2 women she's known for years are cold to her. Conversations stop when she approaches. Invitations to exclusive events mysteriously fail to arrive. She overhears someone say, "I heard the Choi family is having financial problems," and when she confronts them, they smile and pretend they said nothing. Third, the investigators arrive. Financial Crimes Division. They have a warrant to search the hospital charity foundation's records. They have questions about discrepancies in the accounts. They have evidence of transfers. They want to speak to Mrs. Choi formally. She hires a lawyer. The lawyer looks at the evidence and says, very carefully, "Mrs. Choi, they have you. Bank records, false receipts, testimony from Foundation employees. The best we can do is negotiate a plea deal." Fourth, her husband comes home one evening and says, "We need to talk." He's filed for divorce. He's claiming he had no knowledge of her criminal activities. He's protecting his assets, his company, his reputation. He's leaving her with nothing but the debts and the charges. "You bastard!" she screams. "You knew! You knew everything!" "Prove it," he says calmly. And she can't. By the end of the week, Mrs. Choi has lost her husband, her social standing, her position on the hospital board, and her freedom. She's facing criminal charges for embezzlement. Her face is in the news. Her friends have abandoned her. She's moved out of the family house into a small apartment in a less prestigious neighborhood. On the 8th day, she has to return to Gangnam Medical Center as part of her plea deal. She's required to formally apologize to the hospital staff for her behavior. She walks through the corridors she once considered her domain, but now she's wearing cheap clothes and no makeup, and her hair is unwashed. People stare, some whisper. No one greets her. She's brought to the HR office where she reads a prepared statement. "I apologize for my inappropriate behavior. I acted out of anger and entitlement. I am deeply sorry." The words taste like ash in her mouth. As she leaves HR, she sees Kioma in the hallway. The nurse is at the station, reviewing charts, looking professional and composed. The bruise on her face has faded to a yellowish shadow, barely visible. Something inside Mrs. Choi snaps. She marches over, her cheap shoes squeaking on the floor. "See, you! This is your fault!" Kioma looks up, her expression neutral. "Excuse me? My life is ruined. My marriage, my money, my reputation, and it all started with you." Mrs. Choi's voice is rising. Other staff members are turning to look. Kioma sets down her pen carefully. "No, Mrs. Choi. It started when you embezzled charity funds. It continued when you abused people you thought were beneath you. It ended when you assaulted the wrong person." "I'll destroy you. A deep, cold voice cuts through the air. "You'll do nothing." Both women turn. Min-jun is walking toward them, and he's flanked by two large men in dark suits. He's wearing a perfectly tailored three-piece suit, his hair slicked back, his expression unreadable. But there's something in his eyes, and something dark and dangerous that makes everyone in the corridor take an unconscious step back. Mrs. Choi's face goes pale. She recognizes him. Everyone in Seoul's underworld knows Lee Min-jun. Everyone knows what he's capable of. "You," she whispers. Min-jun stops next to Kioma, placing a hand on the small of her back. It's a possessive gesture, protective. "Mrs. Choi, I believe you were just leaving. You did this." She's shaking now, whether from fear or rage isn't clear. "All of it. The investigation, the divorce, everything. It was you." Min-jun's expression doesn't change. "I did nothing. I simply made sure your crimes came to light. The gambling debts, the embezzlement, the pattern of abuse. That was all you. I just facilitated the consequences." He looks down at Kioma, his expression softening. "You wanted to know who she is? Let me introduce you properly. This is Kioma Ndlovu, my fiancé, the woman I'm going to marry, the woman I would burn this entire city for if someone hurt her." He turns back to Mrs. Choi, and his voice drops to a deadly whisper. "You put your hands on her. You left a bruise that took a week to fade. You threatened her job, her safety, her life in this country. Did you really think there would be no consequences?" Mrs. Choi is crying now, ugly, desperate tears. "Please, I've lost everything. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't know." "That's the problem. You didn't know. You didn't care. You thought your money and your status made you untouchable. You thought you could abuse people weaker than you without consequences. You were wrong." Security approaches. "Mr. Park, the same guard who escorted Mrs. Choi out the week before, gently takes her arm. "Ma'am, you need to leave now." As they lead her away, she looks back at Kioma one last time. The nurse is standing next to the man who destroyed her life, and there's no triumph in her expression, no satisfaction. Just exhaustion. When Mrs. Choi is gone, the corridor slowly returns to normal. Conversations resume, people go back to work, but everyone is buzzing with what just happened. Kioma turns to Min-jun. "You promised you wouldn't hurt her." "I didn't touch her." "You know what I mean." He cups her face gently, careful of the fading bruise. "She hurt you. She threatened you. She deserved consequences. I just made sure she faced them." Kioma should be angry. She should lecture him about going behind her back, about taking matters into his own hands, and about the violence inherent in his methods even if he didn't physically harm anyone. But she's too tired. And if she's honest with herself, there's a part of her that's relieved, that feels protected, that appreciates having someone powerful on her side for once. "Take me home," she says quietly. They leave the hospital together, hand in hand. The staff watches them go, whispering about the foreign nurse and the man who loves her enough to destroy anyone who hurts her. That evening, back in the penthouse, they sit on the balcony watching the sun set over Seoul. The city is beautiful from up here, all golden light and long shadows. "Did we go too far?" Kioma asks. Min-jun considers the question. She abused people for years. Hospital staff, service workers, anyone she considered beneath her. We just made sure she couldn't anymore. The foundation is recovering the stolen money. The hospital is safer without her. Justice was served. Is that what you tell yourself? That you're serving justice? Sometimes. Other times I tell myself I'm just a criminal who fell in love with a nurse and will do anything to keep her safe. He looks at her. Does it matter which one is true? Kioma leans her head on his shoulder. I came to Korea thinking I'd work for a few years and go home. I never expected this. You. Us. This life. When you saved me that night in the emergency room, I never expected to fall in love with you. But here we are. Here we are. They sit in comfortable silence for a while. Then Kioma says, I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of keeping us a secret. Are you sure? Once people know you're with me, there's no going back. You'll be associated with everything I am, everything I do. I already am. We just haven't made it public. She sits up and looks at him. I want people to know. I want to stop pretending we're just casually dating. I want to be your wife. Min-jun smiles, genuine and warm. Ready to be known as the Mafia boss's wife? Ready to be known as the nurse's husband? Always. He kisses her as the sun disappears below the horizon and Seoul's lights begin to glow. In the distance, the city pulses with life, millions of stories unfolding simultaneously. Somewhere, Mrs. Choi is sitting in her small apartment, facing the consequences of years of cruelty. Somewhere, the hospital staff is gossiping about what they witnessed. Somewhere, plans are being made and deals are being struck and lives are changing. But up here, in this moment, there's just two people who found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and decided to build something together. 3 months later, they get married in a small ceremony in Cape Town. Kioma's family is there, her mother crying happy tears, her father grudgingly admitting that Min-jun is a good man despite his business interests. A few of Min-jun's trusted people attend. It's intimate and private and perfect. They split their time between Seoul and Johannesburg after that. Min-jun begins the slow process of legitimizing his business operations, transitioning from the underworld to legitimate enterprises. It's dangerous work. There are people who don't want him to leave. But Kioma is his motivation, his reason for changing. She continues working as a nurse, both in Korea and South Africa. She starts a foundation to support immigrant healthcare workers, to give them the protection and support she often lacked. Min-jun's resources help make it successful. Mrs. Choi serves 18 months in prison for embezzlement. When she's released, she's quiet and subdued, all her arrogance gone. She gets a job as a clerk in a small office. She keeps her head down. She never speaks about what happened. The hospital updates its policies on patient conduct and staff protection. Dr. Kang becomes the new board member, and he makes sure that incidents of abuse are taken seriously, that foreign workers have the same protections as everyone else. And sometimes, late at night, when Kioma is lying in bed next to her husband, she thinks about that day in the emergency department. The slap, the humiliation, the moment everything changed. She doesn't regret what happened after. She doesn't feel guilty about Mrs. Choi's downfall. Some people call it karma. Others call it revenge. She calls it consequences. Because in the end, Mrs. Choi didn't lose everything because she slapped a nurse. She lost everything because she spent years believing her wealth and status made her untouchable, because she abused people without remorse, because she thought there would never be consequences for her actions. She was wrong. And when she put her hands on the wrong woman, on someone who was loved and protected by a man who had both the resources and the will to make her pay, all those years of cruelty finally caught up with her. Kioma Ndlovu didn't need a man to fight her battles. She was strong enough, brave enough, capable enough to handle her own problems. But having someone stand beside her, someone who loved her enough to ensure justice was served, someone who used his power to protect rather than harm, that wasn't weakness. That was partnership. That was love. And in a world that so often treated her as less than, as foreign, as someone who should be grateful just to be tolerated, having someone who treated her as precious, as worthy of protection, as deserving of vengeance when she was wronged. That meant everything. The city of Seoul continues to pulse with life. Millions of stories. Millions of moments. But this story of a South African nurse and a Korean Mafia boss and a wealthy woman who learned that actions have consequences, this story is complete. Sometimes karma just needs a little push. And sometimes the people we love are willing to do the pushing. If this story kept you watching until the end, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button. Second, subscribe to this channel because we have so many more stories like this coming. And third, drop a comment telling me what you think. Should Min-jun have gone easier on Mrs. Choi? Was the punishment too harsh? Or did she get exactly what she deserved? I want to hear your thoughts. And if you want to see the prequel to this story, how Kioma and Min-jun actually met, that night in the emergency room when she saved his life and he fell in love, let me know in the comments. If this video gets enough engagement, that's the next story I'll tell you. Until then, remember that kindness matters, that how you treat people has consequences, and that you never really know who someone is connected to. That nurse you're dismissing might be engaged to the most powerful man in the city. That server you're rude to might have a story you can't imagine. Treat everyone with respect, because you never know when karma might come calling. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.